Hello everyone, it's Snow aka Jed, the rogue behind classicroguecraft.com, and today we're going to cover something you guys have been asking me to make for a long time. We're going to do a complete guide to rogue raiding. So a lot of my other content has been pretty advanced stuff, but this is going to cater to both beginners and advanced people. This series will cover absolutely everything I believe a rogue needs to know to go from brand new fresh level 60 rogue to a 99 passing pink pumper rogue. Now I know I make some long videos, but there's so much content to cover here that I can't actually fit all of this into one video without making it into something insanely long and complicated. So make sure you're subscribed below so you don't miss out on the next videos in this series, because I'm going to break it up into a few parts. We're going to cover everything including rotations, cooldown usage, talents, consumables, and much more. So let's get into it. As always, this video is brought to you by you guys. If you loved my free rogue guides, there's even more guides available to Twitch subs. Once per week I add an extra video guide for my Twitch subs covering heavily requested rogue topics in more detail. We've covered topics such as in-depth broodlord positioning guides, active trinket DPS calculations, and pet trinket raid tutorials. So if you want to help support Classic Roguecraft and get yourself bonus guides at the same time, head over to twitch.tv/snowy and hit that subscribe button. You'll find all my bonus guides in the Twitch sub-channel of the Classic Roguecraft Discord. And by the way, even if you're not a Twitch sub, feel free to join our super active Discord linked in the description below. We have over 3,200 members currently, and I'm in there all day answering questions and theory crafting with the other rogues. Alright, so let's run through the beginner things first and we'll ramp up from there. Firstly, what does it even mean to be a high performing rogue, and what are high passes? Can anyone get high passes? How do you even tell if a rogue is good or bad? Now, by far the most common baseline most people use to measure a rogue's raiding skill is their pass rank, which is both a good and a bad thing. There's a website called Warcraft Logs, and everyone can upload logs of their raids and have their performance judged versus all the other players found on that website. On their website, you've got a ton of different ranking metrics, but the three most common ones are your best performance average, your DPS rank, and your all-stars rank. Now, best performance average tracks your best ever world rank for total DPS in each raid fight and gives you an average out of 100. DPS rank is your highest average boss DPS achieved in a single clear. All-stars rank is a score given based on your current best rankings for each boss in that raid instance. Now, do these ranks mean something? Kinda. It can take skill to get a high rank. However, they can also mean nothing in some cases, and here's why. DPS is the name of the game in these ranks. All three of these rank categories are based on DPS of some sort, and your guild's kill times have a massive effect on your DPS in raids. You can be a top skill rogue in a casual guild and not have full 99 passes because your guild kills things too slow. Likewise, you can be an average rogue in a top tier guild and still have high ranked 99 passes because your guild kills things super fast. So does this make pass ranks completely pointless? Not completely. It gives you something to aim for and to improve each week, and that's personally why I care about my pass ranks. I'm in a guild that doesn't stack as many warriors, so I'm already disadvantaged in my passing from the start. But that doesn't mean I just ignore passes. You can still get a lot of information from logs such as rotations, cooldown usage, uptime, and there's always something you can improve no matter whether you're in a casual guild or a hardcore guild. I'm a firm believer in the belief that raiding to improve keeps the game fun and interesting. Raids become boring and repetitive when you're just semi-AFK clearing through them with no care about your own performance. However, when I'm out there planning my next runs, working on improving mistakes, or figuring out how to improve my raid performance, that's where I actually log into raid and look forward to it each week. At the end of the day, logs let you review and work on the rogue fundamentals such as rotations, cooldown usage, uptime, and positioning. They let you see where you're going wrong, and that's really the true value of the log. Now here's a good example for you. This is Just Woo. He has a 99.9 best performance average and is ranked number 1 rogue in the world for all-star points right now. He's been hanging in some of my Twitch streams recently, and I've talked to him in the past about wanting to make some content for beginner rogues. He's a firm believer in the fact that top rogues don't do anything special, but rather that they just aim to do the basics consistently well. Now to showcase this, he's recently actually recorded his world rank 1 DPS run and given himself critiques of where he could have improved. He even sat through the stream with us and went through the video again, and I'll put that video link actually below if you're curious, along with the stream VOD link where he hung out for 4 to 5 hours just answering questions that other rogues had on our stream. Now long story short, everyone can improve something. Everyone should review their logs, and it comes down to these basics. So that's what this rogue rating series tutorials are aimed to teach you. Now again, there's a lot to cover, but let's start with the one skill that gets the most people confused about, and this is rotations. So what are rotations and how should I do them correctly on raids? Rotations are simply the order and timing that you use your skills. When do you backstab? When do you sinister strike? How many combo points do you use on slice and dice? Are you timing your adrenaline rush and DPS cooldowns and consumables correctly? Do you space out your attacks correctly? All of this is part of your rotational skill. So let's break this down step by step. Now I have timestamps below for those who might need them for reference later, as well as a link to the text version of this guide on classicroguecraft.com once it's available. So in any fight, a rogue has these main skills and things that they'll be using in their offensive rotation. So they obviously have Sinister Strike or Backstab as their main combo point builders. They have Slice and Dice to increase the attack speed. And they have Eviscerate to do upfront damage with their combo points. Now for the offensive DPS cooldowns, they have Adrenaline Rush for double energy regen for 15 seconds. They have Blade Flurry for cleave attacks that can hit multiple units and also increases attack speed for 15 seconds. And some races such as Orcs and Trolls have offensive ratios such as Blood Fury, which increases the attack power, or Berserking, which increases the attack speed. Now as well as that, there are some active trinkets and consumables such as the Renataki's Charm of Trickery, which gives you 70-60 energy on a click, very useful for changing up your rotation. And there's also Thistle Tea, which will restore 100 energy when you use it. Now besides these, there's obviously a whole bunch of other skills and consumables such as Vanish, Sapper Charges, Lips, as well as a lot of other active trinkets. But we'll be covering those other things in a different part of this tutorial series. So for now, let's focus down on offensive rotations. The easiest way for me to do this is to just go through the main rotations one by one and explain when you'd use them. The key thing to keep in mind here is that Slice and Dice is your most valuable overall combo point skill. This goes for both Dagger and Sword Rogues. So your main goal in a rogue rotation is to keep Slice and Dice up in the most efficient way possible, usually by refreshing it just before it drops off each time. Now a disclaimer, obviously these rotations are a general guide and there are always exceptions based on specific fight mechanics and specific kill times. But just use the following as a general good use guide and you can edit your rotations from there if you get into one of those specific exception scenarios. Now another thing to note is that notice how sometimes you don't exactly get 20 energy on a tick refresh? And this is because classic energy regen is a little buggy and you see things like this happen from time to time. Now this does get fixed later in World of Warcraft, but we'll kind of have to deal with these buggy energy gains during the duration of Classic, unfortunately. Okay, here are the Dagger Rogue rotations first. Rotation 1. 1 backstab, slice and dice. 2 backstab, slice and dice. Backstab until slice and dice is ending, then refresh as needed. So this is your standard Dagger Rogue opener with no cooldowns or abilities used. This rotation here will be your bread and butter, and you will use this opener on most fights as your go-to rotation. The main thing to remember with daggers is backstab uses so much energy that your spare energy outside of backstab is usually used to refresh slice and dice. You will rarely get to eviscerate outside of your extra energy cooldowns. And in the same reasoning, this is also why we typically don't go into the 2 backstab slice and dice rotation without using extra cooldowns or energy cooldowns, because to get 2 backstabs into a slice and dice requires too much energy and we lose too much uptime on our slice and dice. So that's why the 1 backstab slice and dice is a very standard opener. Okay, so rotation 2. We have the backstab into slice and dice, into 2 backstabs, into using your cooldowns at some point here, into 5 backstabs, into slice and dice. So this is another fairly common way to use your cooldowns, particularly in blackwing and MC, where some fights are going insanely fast and you don't always get to hold your cooldowns for later. This rotation lets you refresh with a juicy 5-point slice and dice fairly quickly, and higher combo point finishes are actually more efficient and have higher chance of returning your energy thanks to the Relentless Strikes talent. Okay, now notice in this example here that even with cooldowns, it can sometimes be a little tricky reaching that 5-point slice and dice without letting that slice and dice drop as a Dagger rogue. Particularly if you go for that 5-point slice and dice after a 2-point slice and dice. You can see my slice and dice drops off for a short time when I went for that early slice and dice, even if I popped that adrenaline rush. Here's where the next rotations come in handy to get you to that higher combo point slice and dice earlier, and to use the Renataki's trinket to do so. Now if you don't use or own a Renataki's trinket, you can skip these, but if so, you may find them handy. Also keep in mind that these Renataki rotations don't apply to Orc Rogues because Orc Rogues are a special case where all the DPS cooldowns should be saved to use during the racial Blood Fury to maximize damage. Okay, so this rotation is backstab, backstab, Renataki, slice and dice. So there are rare fights where you may want to get a 2-point slice and dice up early. In this case, you'd use this Renataki trinket during your opener to get 2 backstabs before your first slice and dice rotation. So normally we'd be waiting for that extra energy to get that slice and dice up if we backstab twice, but with the Renatakis we can get it up really quickly. Okay, now the 4th rotation is actually my favorite Renataki's opener, and this is the one I use the most often. It's backstab, slice and dice, backstab, backstab, backstab with the Renataki's trinket to get that 3rd backstab into slice and dice. So this is a 1-point slice and dice into a 3-point slice and dice. It basically allows you to easily fit in an early 5-point eviscerate if you do choose to pop your adrenaline rush after that 3-point slice and dice. And even if you choose to not go for that 5-point eviscerate, instead you can go for the 5-point slice and dice, and it still makes your entire rotation way smoother and less pressed for time than you would get from a normal 2-point slice and dice opener. Okay, so those are the 4 main Dagger rotations that I like to use. Now let's cover the sword openers now. Rotation 1 is 2 Sinister Strikes into Slice and Dice, into 4 or 5 Sinister Strikes into Slice and Dice. So this is your basic Sword Rogue rotation opener, your bread and butter opener. So you're basically going for a 2-point Slice and Dice opener into a 5-point Slice and Dice opener. But notice here in the first example that you will need to get a little bit okay RNG, so anything but bad RNG is good here, to get that 2-point slice and dice into the 5-point slice and dice. So Sword Rogues typically have the talents Ruthlessness and Relentless Strikes, and you need one of those two to proc on your 2-point slice and dice. If Ruthlessness procs, you can make it to the 5-point slice and dice really comfortably, because you only need 4 Sinister Strikes to reach that 5-point slice and dice then. And if Relentless Strikes procs by itself, you should get to that 5-point slice and dice, but you just have a very short drop in uptime of your slice and dice, and that's fine as well. It's only if you get really unlucky that neither of those two talents proc that you struggle to reach the 5-point slice and dice without that 3-second gap roughly in your slice and dice uptime. Okay, now here's the same rotation, but with cooldowns blown after the 2-point slice and dice. Notice that your general opening rotation actually doesn't change much even with cooldowns, but it does let you build up your 5-point slice and dice easily and go right into the 5-point eviscerate afterwards really quickly. This is the main difference in Sword Rogue rotations. You have plenty of combo points due to Sinister Strike costing less, meaning even if you don't pop your cooldowns, you'll still be able to keep slice and dice up while throwing some big combo point eviscerates in between those slice and dices. Notice here, I'm going to show you in this rotation that I don't even use any cooldowns, but still easily throw in the 5-point eviscerate and refresh a 2-point slice and dice before it drops. Okay, so the next rotation is Sinister Strike, Slice and Dice, into 4 or 5 Sinister Strikes with Renetakis, into Slice and Dice. Now again, this is still the standard opener, but we've added in Renetakis to make it more consistent and easier to get off. Since Sword Rogues have lower energy requirements, it doesn't actually change our typical rotation like it would for Dagger Rogues, but it does mean that we get very easy guaranteed 5-point Slice and Dices if we are Renetaki using Sword Rogue. So if we do choose to use it on opener, even if we get bad luck on our Relentless and Ruthlessness procs, we still get that 5-point Slice and Dice easy peasy. Again, do note that Orc Rogues should always save the Renetakis to use with your racial, so I'll keep reminding you guys throughout the entire lesson that Orc Rogues are the exception. Alright, so rotation 3. So this opener is a 1-point Slice and Dice opener for Sword Rogues, where you open with 1 Sinister Strike into Slice and Dice. Then you use an energy cooldown to help you reach 5 combo points for your Slice and Dice on the second rotation. So to reach this by the second rotation of Slice and Dice, we have to either burn Adrenaline Rush, Renetaki's Trinket, or Thistle Tea. So in this first example here, I burn Adrenaline Rush. Then in the next, I burn Renetakis. Any of these energy items or cooldowns will allow you to reach an early 5-point Slice and Dice. Now this rotation here I'm including because it is doable, but in general I don't actually recommend it for most rogues because the 2 Sinister Strikes into Slice and Dice opener is easier to execute, doesn't require cooldowns, and has a more comfortable timing overall. However, I am including it as it is another common opener for some rogues to use from time to time. So even if I personally recommend the other opener, I'm still going to include this one. Again, fair warning, Orc Rogues, you won't be using this rotation because you're typically saving cooldowns for stacking with your racial. So those are our main rotational openers. Now let's talk about some advanced rotation timings. So advanced rotation 1 is the first change I'll cover in terms of rotations here, which is spacing your skills and pooling energy. Now notice here in this example, I don't spam backstab as soon as I have the energy to do so. This is called pooling energy and spacing your skills. As long as you don't hit beyond your energy cap, which in this case in this video is 100 before I use the skill, it's okay for me to wait and space out skills a little bit and let my energy pool up till I'm just below 100. This in particular is a useful skill at the start of fights, especially as a Dagger Rogue where you find yourself sometimes high-ish on threat early on, and instead of doing something silly like fainting, I'm still going to use the same general opener of 1 backstab into Slice and Dice, into 2 backstab into Slice and Dice, but I'm spacing it out to even out my threat gain and allow the tank to build up a bit better threat before I burst it with another backstab worth of threat. Now the only thing to be careful here is if you're about to pass the energy cap, just be careful of misses when you're about to spend that energy, because those can make you overcap your energy if you pull your energy for too long and then you get a miss on the backstab and you can't spend your energy quick enough. So just be careful of those misses. Okay, so advanced rotation 2. Now in this rotation, I'm going to go over roughly when you use Thistle Tea for rotating. Now generally the absolute ideal time for Thistle Tea is 0 energy, of course, but it's just not going to be doable most of the time, so usually most rogues settle for between 0 and 10 energy as the ideal Thistle Tea timings. Do note, in some short fights you may be forced to use Thistle Tea at higher energy levels just due to the short nature of the fights, meaning that you don't have the time to just sit there and wait for a better window to use it. Now this is especially common on Razorgore, for example. But one tip I can give for timing your Thistle Tea in general is that you can watch for when you're between, say, 40 and 50 energy as a Dagger Rogue, because this means your next tick of energy will put you at 60 to 70 energy, which will let you backstab and then Thistle Tea immediately at 0 to 10 energy. Similarly, you can wait to see 20 to 30 energy as a Sword Rogue too, and know that your next energy tick will put you in a good spot to Sinister Strike, then Thistle Tea right after, assuming you don't get some unlucky dodges. Now the main thing to be careful with when popping your tea is you always want to use it early in your energy tick. If you pop it too late into a tick, you run into that risk of not using that new energy quick enough, and your next energy tick hits and then you overcap your energy. Now this is also why it's generally not recommended to use Thistle Tea during Adrenaline Rush, unless you're an Orc or you're trying to push all your DPS into that racial ability timing. Speaking of which, let's talk about Advanced Rotation 3, which is all about pooling and holding energy for Crusader and the Orc racial. Now I'm not an Orc, so I can't show you Orc racial pooling here, but the concept is similar to holding cooldowns for a Crusader proc and popping everything while Crusader is running. Now the obvious difference being that Orc racial is up to you when you want to use it, but just like Crusader, you typically want to blow your DPS cooldowns when the Orc racial is up. One thing I don't showcase as much in this clip is you do have the option to try to pool a little more energy when waiting for Crusader, or just before popping that Orc racial typically. This does mean instead of hovering at low energy, you try to hover below your energy cap and wait for higher energy, so that when you do get the Crusader proc or you use that Orc racial, you go in with more energy to just burn on DPS. So now let's talk Advanced Rotation 4, which is all about swing timing. Swing timing is simply having a swing timer mod installed, like the simple one I have here, which is all included in my UI guide by the way, on the Discord or on my website, and using damaging skills so that they execute at the start of each swing. Now this includes not just using backstab and sinister strikes, but also eviscerates. So eviscerates actually can reset your swing timer as well if you are someone in this category. So you mainly do this only if you are a sword rogue, if you are a dagger rogue on horde with Wind Fury, or if you are any rogue using a Hand of Justice that can proc extra swings. Now the reason for this is you have a chance to reset your swings, like I just said, based on if you have a sword spec proc or Wind Fury proc, and you basically don't want that swing to reset right before it completes. The damage from a swing comes when it completes, so if you proc a sword attack or Wind Fury proc for example, you stop the current swing and get 0 damage for that whole swing if it gets interrupted. So by timing our skills to hit at the beginning of your swings, you're essentially limiting the amount of swings that are getting reset late into that swing. Now that all said, I don't actually recommend most rogues time swings, especially not new rogues. In real world usage, you get more DPS gains from fixing your rotations or other factors in a fight, especially as a newer rogue. I actually find a lot of rogues who do focus too much on swing timings before they master the other areas of rogue DPS first, end up messing up their rotations or the fight mechanics, or not getting a real gain from timing their swings. There are actually some situations too where swing timings can be risky, such as during Adrenaline Rush as a Daggers rogue, because one miss can easily send you over the energy cap if you cut it too close trying to time swings perfectly. Basically, swing timing is worth doing in general, but mostly only for those rogues who have already entered the state where they have everything locked down from their rotations to fight mechanics, and they have that extra focus to spend on swing timing during the fight. I've always viewed it as the last thing to work on out of this big list of possible things that you could be improving as a rogue, and it's not something I'd ever focus on as a new rogue. Okay, so now for Advanced Rotation 5, on the flip side, here's a very simple rotational change that most rogues can start implementing right away. Now this is fairly well known, but in case you don't know, Adrenaline Rush is 15 seconds, but each tick of new energy happens every 2 seconds. Now this means that if you wait until you're on the second half of your energy tick bar, so you see this energy tick bar on my screen here, before you use your Adrenaline Rush, you'll get an extra tick of bonus energy from your Adrenaline Rush timer. So this is free energy basically, and you should aim to do this whenever you can. And if you don't already have one, I highly recommend you get a good energy ticker, weak aura, or add something like Nug energy, which is what I'm using here. Okay, Advanced Rotation 6. Here's one more advanced rotational change, but this one is only going to be for very specific scenarios and only for certain rogues. When in very short fights, you can actually choose to change or pick your rotation based on the fight length. So for example, if the fight length is way too short for 5-point slice and dice, we might go for an early big eviscerate and use a low combo point slice and dice after it to try to match our slice and dice uptime to the kill time, so that we're not wasting like 15 seconds of slice and dice uptime after the fight ends. There's a whole bunch of variations you can do based on this idea of changing your slice and dice usage to match your kill times exactly. And you see this happen a lot if you look at the logs of rogues in top guilds such as Progress or Dream State or Apes, whoever it is that you look up to. Now this is pretty advanced and it does require you looking at your logs and roughly knowing your guild's kill times ahead of time. But it's worth doing if you ever move into a guild with super fast kill times, or you want to try to match your slice and dice timings up perfectly for a specific short fight such as Razor Gore. Alright, so with that, we've basically covered most of the general rotations used by raiding rogues, and also some advanced users as well. We actually have a lot more to cover, including fight uptime, advanced aggro control, consumables, raid macros, and a lot more. So stay tuned for the next raid basics video coming soon. So one more time with the plug, if you love this content and you want to not only support this free channel, but get yourself some extra rogue guides, I do an extra video guide for my Twitch subs once per week. So head over to twitch.tv/snowme. I stream 3 times a week, both for NA and EU, and you can hit that subscribe button and get yourself extra bonus video guides in the classicroguecraft Discord. Alright, so take care. Thanks a lot folks, and I will see you in the next video.